You are 9 years old, standing beside a runway fence with one hand pressed over your ear and the other gripping a half-melted ice cream, when the sky suddenly tears open. A fighter jet drops out of the clouds, screams over the airfield, and climbs again like gravity just lost an argument. Your chest vibrates. Your shoes tremble. Your ice cream is now structural damage. Everyone around you looks up. But your family doesn't look surprised. Your family looks proud. Because in your house, that sound is not noise. That sound is somebody coming home. Welcome to being born into a fighter pilot family. Rewind to the beginning. You arrive in a home where the walls are not decorated with random pictures from a furniture store. They have squadron patches. Framed photos of aircraft. Challenge coins. Old helmets. Maps. A model jet on a shelf that nobody is allowed to touch unless they have earned the right, which apparently you have not, because you are 4 and once tried to feed it cereal. Your bedtime stories are different. Other kids hear about castles, dragons, and lost princesses. You hear about dawn briefings, desert skies, carrier decks, mountain passes, bad weather, perfect landings, and the one time somebody's call sign became family legend because of something deeply embarrassing that will never be forgotten. Nobody explains the full story while you're little. They just say, "We don't talk about that." Which, obviously, means you will spend the next 10 years trying to find out. In most families, a loud sound outside means someone dropped a trash can. In your family, everyone pauses mid-sentence, listens for half a second, and says, "That's not commercial." Not commercial. As if the sky itself has different social classes. And in your childhood, it kind of does. There are normal planes, the ones civilians take to visit grandparents and complain about legroom. Then there are the beautiful, brutal, impossible machines your family talks about with a mixture of respect, love, and the kind of seriousness other people reserve for ancient temples. You learn early that fighter pilots do not simply fly planes. They strap themselves to controlled thunder. They make decisions faster than most people can unlock their phones. They live in a world where focus is not a productivity hack. It is survival, precision, discipline, and art moving at hundreds of miles per hour. And somehow, one of those people is your parent. That changes the atmosphere of a house. Not in a cold way. Not in a scary way. In a charged way. Like the whole place has a slightly higher voltage. Mornings have rhythm. Boots by the door. A flight bag packed with ritual precision. Coffee strong enough to qualify as aviation fuel. Sunglasses on the counter. A watch that looks more serious than most adults. Someone checking weather like it owes them money. You don't fully understand the job yet. You only understand that when your parent leaves the house in a flight suit, the room becomes quieter for a moment. Not sad. Focused. Like everyone knows something important is happening. Then later, when they come back, the house exhales. And suddenly there are stories. Not classified ones. Not dramatic movie ones. The safe family versions. The clouds looked incredible today. The crosswind was annoying. Somebody made the worst radio call I've ever heard. We saw the mountains from above the snow line. And you sit there eating pasta, realizing your parents' workday took place somewhere between earth and myth. This absolutely rocks. Because being born into a fighter pilot family means growing up with a backstage pass to confidence. Not fake confidence. Not loud confidence. The real kind. The kind that comes from preparation, repetition, skill, humility, and knowing exactly what can go wrong if you get sloppy. You learn the difference early. Loud people talk about being fearless. Fighter pilot families talk about checklists. That is the first secret. The coolness is not chaos. It is control. The movies show the sunglasses, the speed, the dramatic music, the heroic walk across the tarmac. And yes, the walk is real. And yes, it looks amazing. Nobody is denying that. But inside the family, you see what comes before it. Studying. Briefing. Planning. Training. Debriefing. Owning mistakes. Fixing details. Doing boring things with extreme seriousness because boring things are what keep exciting things from becoming disasters. As a kid, this leaks into your life. You do not simply pack a backpack. You are told to check it. You do not say, "I forgot." You learn that forgetting is not a personality trait. It is a system failure. You do not show up late and expect sympathy. In your house, time is not a suggestion. Time is a target. At first, this is annoying. Then you grow up and realize you have accidentally been raised inside a high-performance operating system. Other kids are told, "Do your best." You are told, "Prepare, execute, review." Brutal? Maybe. Effective? Extremely. And there is the language. Every family has its phrases. Some families say, "Because I said so." Your family says things like, situational awareness, stay ahead of the aircraft, aviate first, and, don't get task-saturated, during completely normal domestic events. You spill orange juice. Someone says, recover the situation. You lose your shoes before school. Someone says, your scan broke down. You try to carry 6 things at once, drop 3 of them, and get a lecture about workload management. Beautiful. Ridiculous. Useful. By age 10, you may not know long division perfectly, but you understand that panic makes people stupid. You understand that when things go wrong, the first move is to breathe, look, prioritize, and do the next correct thing. That is not just aviation. That is life. And then there are the air shows. Oh, the air shows. Other kids go to amusement parks and stand in line for roller coasters. You go to air shows and watch machines climb vertically until they look like they are trying to leave the planet out of pure ambition. The smell of fuel is in the air. The crowd is squinting upward. Someone is selling overpriced lemonade. A jet rolls overhead, sunlight flashing off its wings, and for 3 seconds every single person on the ground becomes a child. Except you have insider status. You know where to stand. You know which aircraft matters. You know when the crowd is about to gasp before they know it themselves. You know that the calm person in a flight suit walking by might be capable of doing things in the sky that look illegal under the laws of physics. That is a very strange kind of family privilege. Not rich privilege. Not celebrity privilege. More like, your childhood comes with thunder, discipline, and occasional access to people whose job descriptions sound like they were invented by a 12-year-old with excellent taste. Fly fast jets. Yes, please. You learn that speed is not the main thing. This is surprising. As a kid, you think the cool part is obviously speed. Fast is cool. Loud is cool. Afterburner is basically a dragon with engineering credentials. But the longer you grow up around fighter pilots, the more you realize speed is only the surface. The real magic is decision-making. A fighter pilot is not just a person who moves fast. A fighter pilot is a person who thinks clearly while everything around them happens too quickly. That is the rare part. That is the elite part. The aircraft is powerful, but the mind inside it has to be sharper than the machine is loud. And you see that mindset at home. Your parent can be relaxed, funny, even ridiculous. They might make terrible jokes. They might forget where they put their mug. They might wear socks that should have been retired for national security reasons. But when something needs focus, a switch flips. The eyes sharpen. The voice gets calm. The room gets simpler. You watch that happen over and over. During travel problems. During emergencies. During a flat tire. During a storm. During family chaos when everyone else is emotionally performing opera in the kitchen. That calm becomes part of your inheritance. You learn that calm is not the absence of pressure. Calm is a skill. And fighter pilot families train it without making a motivational poster about it. You also learn that confidence and humility are not opposites. This may be the biggest surprise. From the outside, fighter pilots look like pure confidence in human form. Sunglasses. Call signs. Jets. The whole thing has dangerous levels of charisma. But inside the culture, arrogance is not the same as excellence. Arrogance gets corrected fast. Because the sky does not care about your ego. The aircraft does not care about your mood. Physics is not impressed by your reputation. So the best pilots learn to be confident enough to act, but humble enough to listen. They brief. They check. They ask. They admit. They review mistakes with the emotional comfort of a dentist appointment, because truth matters more than looking perfect. Imagine growing up around that. You see adults willingly replay their own errors so they can get better. Not hide them. Not decorate them. Not blame the weather, the room, the vibe, Mercury retrograde, or whoever was nearby. They say, here's what happened. Here's what I missed. Here's what I'll do next time. That kind of honesty changes you. It teaches you that being elite does not mean never making mistakes. Being elite means refusing to waste them. School presentations become easier because you've watched grown adults debrief harder things than your poster about volcanoes. Sports become different because you understand practice is not punishment. It is preparation. Tests become less mystical because you know pressure can be managed. Even fear becomes different. Not gone. Different. A fighter pilot family does not teach you that brave people never feel fear. That would be nonsense. The whole profession is built around respecting danger. They teach you something better. Fear is information. It tells you to prepare. It tells you to pay attention. It tells you something matters. But it does not get to sit in the front seat and grab the controls. That lesson alone is worth the childhood. Then there is the family calendar, which is basically normal life with occasional cinematic complications. Deployments. Training blocks. Early mornings. Late nights. Missed birthdays sometimes. Reunions that feel bigger because absence taught everyone the value of presence. A parent walking through the door after weeks away and suddenly the house becomes brighter by 10%. This is the tender part people don't see. They see the jet. They don't see the spouse managing everything while the pilot is gone. They don't see the kid learning to count days. They don't see the strange mix of pride and waiting. They don't see the way a family becomes a team because it has to. And somehow, that rocks too. Not because it is easy. Because it gives weight to ordinary things. Pizza night after a long absence feels like a national holiday. A normal Saturday feels luxurious. Sitting together on the couch becomes an event. You learn that togetherness is not background noise. It is something you notice. And fighter pilot families are very good at noticing. They notice weather. They notice timing. They notice tone. They notice when someone is overloaded. They notice small changes before they become big problems. Situational awareness is not left at the airfield. It follows everyone home and starts commenting on the dishwasher. You become observant. Maybe too observant. You can tell when a room shifts. You can tell when someone is nervous. You can spot the exit in a restaurant without trying. You can pack for a trip like you are supporting a small expedition. You learn to scan, plan, adapt, and keep moving. Useful? Yes. Slightly intense for a family picnic? Also yes. But intensity in your family usually comes with humor. The jokes are constant. The sarcasm is dry. The call signs are merciless. Nobody in this world is allowed to be too cool for too long, because somebody remembers the one embarrassing thing they did in 2009 and has been waiting patiently to bring it up. That is another secret. Fighter pilot culture looks glamorous from the outside, but inside it runs on competence and roasting. You can be brilliant. You can be decorated. You can fly a machine worth more than a mansion. But if you once tripped over your own bag in front of the squadron, congratulations. That story has achieved immortality. As a kid, this is confusing. As a teenager, it is horrifying. As an adult, you realize it is healthy. Humor keeps the ego from inflating past safe operating limits. And yes, the cool factor is real. Let's not pretend it isn't. There is a particular feeling that comes from telling someone what your parent does and watching their eyebrows move. Fighter pilot? Really? Like actual fighter pilot? Yes. Actual. Not video game. Not costume. Not motivational metaphor. Real jets. Real sky. Real training. Real pressure. Suddenly your family becomes interesting at school. People ask questions. Have they ever gone upside down? Can they break the sound barrier? Do they have a call sign? Have they met the president? Can they fly me somewhere? No, Tyler. They cannot pick you up from soccer practice in a fighter jet. But you enjoy the moment anyway. Because there is something undeniably thrilling about being connected to a world most people only see in movies. You have seen the tired version. The funny version. The human version. The version sitting at the kitchen table eating toast. That makes the legend better, not smaller. You understand that heroes still have laundry. And that is strangely inspiring. Because it means excellence is not a fantasy species. It lives in normal houses. It takes out the trash. It forgets milk. It tells bad jokes. Then it goes to work and performs at a level that makes your jaw drop. That is one of the best gifts of being born into a fighter pilot family. You grow up close enough to greatness that it stops feeling impossible. You still respect it. But you don't worship it from miles away. You see the habits underneath. The preparation. The repetition. The discipline. The team. The maintenance crews. The instructors. The briefers. The people who make the mission possible. You learn that no one flies alone, no matter how lonely the jet looks in the sky. That lesson matters. Because kids often think success belongs to one shining person at the center of the story. Fighter pilot families know better. The pilot may be the one in the cockpit, but the whole world around them has to function. Mechanics. Controllers. Planners. Crew chiefs. Families. Friends. Teammates. Everyone has a role. You grow up understanding that excellence is a system. Not a solo performance. And if your parent is the pilot, the family is part of the system too. The home has to hold. The people have to adapt. The goodbye has to be brave. The welcome home has to be warm. The ordinary days have to carry the extraordinary ones. That gives you pride. A quiet kind. The kind that sits deep. You may rebel against it sometimes. Of course you do. Maybe you get tired of the rules. Maybe you roll your eyes at the aviation metaphors. Maybe you do not want every minor problem turned into a leadership lesson. Maybe when someone says, mission planning, about a grocery run, you briefly consider moving to a family of poets. Understandable. But then life hits you with something difficult, and the training appears. You breathe. You assess. You do not freeze. You break the problem into pieces. You do the next thing. And suddenly you realize your childhood left tools inside you. Not just memories. Tools. The older you get, the more valuable they become. Because the world is loud. People panic. Plans change. Pressure rises. Everyone wants confidence, but few people want the boring preparation that creates it. You were raised around people who knew the truth. Cool is not looking calm in a leather jacket. Cool is being ready when the moment arrives. That is what your family taught you. And they taught it with style. Let's be honest. The aesthetic is unbeatable. Flight suits. Patches. Helmets. Aircraft silhouettes against sunset. Early morning airfields. The strange beauty of a runway before takeoff. The way a jet sits there looking impatient, like it was built by people who thought the sky was too slow. You can try to be unimpressed. You will fail. There is no normal way to watch a fighter jet launch and think, whatever. Your body knows. The sound goes through your bones. The machine rolls. The nose lifts. The ground lets go. And for a second, every ancient human dream about flight becomes visible, loud, and aggressively well-funded. As a child of that world, you get to carry the feeling with you. Not because you own it. Because you witnessed it up close. And the feeling is this: humans can train themselves into astonishing things. That is the real inspiration. Not just the aircraft. The person. Someone was once a kid too. Someone once struggled with basics. Someone once had a first lesson, a first failure, a first terrifying check ride, a first instructor who did not smile enough. Then they kept going. Learned. Practiced. Failed. Improved. Earned trust. Earned the aircraft. Earned the sky. Growing up with that story in your house does something powerful to your imagination. It raises the ceiling. It makes impossible goals feel less like fantasies and more like long training pipelines. Which is both inspiring and inconvenient. Because now you have fewer excuses. Your family has shown you what disciplined ambition looks like. Annoying. Wonderful. By adulthood, the whole childhood becomes clear. The air shows, the stories, the rules, the waiting, the checklists, the jokes, the pride, the missed dinners, the reunions, the patches, the roaring sky. It was never just about jets. It was about a way of living. Sharp eyes. Steady hands. Fast thinking. Deep loyalty. Preparedness without panic. Confidence without nonsense. Humor under pressure. Love that shows up as discipline, planning, and making sure everyone gets home. That is a rare inheritance. Some people inherit money. Some inherit old furniture. Some inherit recipes. You inherit the sound of afterburners in your memory and a nervous system that knows how to organize chaos. Not bad. And even if you never become a pilot yourself, the imprint stays. You still look up when something fast crosses the sky. You still feel a little electricity near an airfield. You still pack better than your friends. You still believe a person can become sharper through training. You still know that fear is not a stop sign. You still understand that calm can be built. And somewhere in the back of your mind, there is always that runway fence. That melting ice cream. That impossible aircraft climbing like the sky personally invited it higher. Other people remember childhood as school mornings, cartoons, chores, and ordinary weekends. You remember standing under thunder and realizing it had a name, a purpose, and maybe your parents' hands on the controls. You remember learning that courage can be practiced. You remember discovering that the coolest people in the world still review their mistakes. You remember that excellence is not magic. It is preparation wearing sunglasses. That kind of childhood does not just rock. It goes supersonic.